Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Gold Learning session here, our Childbirth Education Symposium coming up here on September 12th. And here I am sitting down today with Kristin Cawley. Welcome, Kristin. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
And Kristin's going to be presenting to us, including LGBTQ families in the childbirth education course. Very excited to have you here, Kristin, and I know that you came to us highly recommended, and then I actually got to listen to some of your things online, so I was very grateful. And we had a great chat about what we were going to do here, so thank you for being with us and providing us all this great stuff. I'm just so excited to have you. But first of all, maybe you'd like to introduce yourself to our listening audience today. Just tell us a little bit about yourself and why this is something that you're so passionate about.
Sure. So I have been a midwife for about 11 years. I've worked with birthing families for about 20 years. And I am queer identified, gender queer identified myself. And when I started to practice midwifery, or I would say always, all of my work with birthing families, I'm always looking for what's the missing piece? Where are people falling through the cracks? And when I started practicing, I joined Maya Midwifery, which was a pre-existing practice in the San Francisco Bay Area that was organized around serving LGBTQ families. And it was so heartening to me to see how queer and transgender people were being served really well in the childbearing process. And one of the ways that I plugged in was actually teaching this childbirth ed class, which is not something that a midwife would typically do. You know, usually we just do the prenatal care and we catch the babies and we do the postpartum care. But this is a much more full spectrum practice where we are caring for families from preconception until early parenting. So teaching the childbirth class, it's been easy to feel passionate about it because I see how deeply affected and deeply supported the families are.
Ah, I see. So this is great. So it was just really a really great fit for you. And I can hear that once you saw that these families are being served, you couldn't wait to jump in by the sounds of it and be a part of that as well. So
Exactly.
I would love to know, in the years that you've spent teaching, and of course in your practice as a midwife, what have been the most significant changes that you've seen in teaching childbirth education?
You know, that's an interesting question. What I have found is that in this past little more than a decade, getting together with families in a room, typically in a weekend intensive format, about 3 to 4 times a year over 11 years. So you do the math. I guess that's
Wow.
about, 33 to 44 groups.
Yep.
Um, and what I have seen most consistently is that each time I sit down and teach these families, it's a microcosm of the development of queer culture over time.
Hmm.
And what I've seen most consistently is the kind of trajectory of how people are talking about their experience of their gender in relation to becoming a parent. Where when I first started teaching, conversations like, I don't know if I want my baby to call me mom, I don't feel like a mom, was hard for people to speak up and talk about
Mm.
11 years ago.
Right.
Where over time now people are self identifying, you know, these are the pronouns I use, and this is what my baby's going to call me, and this is my experience of my gender through this process of becoming a parent. So to me, I feel like I've had a front row seat to how queer culture has shifted. And when I say the word queer, it's like an overarching word that may relate to being lesbian, gay, bisexual, for many people transgender, and that's what the Q is queer. It's like a all-encompassing word. So that's what I've seen is just the evolution of queer and trans culture.
That's wonderful. I was just thinking, as you said, evolution there, that's what I was thinking about exactly, the evolution in change of what's happened. It must have been a wonderful experience, really, when you reflect. I hear it in your voice, the reflection of how things have progressed and the evolution over time, where now people are starting to identify with the names that they choose, which is must be incredible for you to see as well.
Yeah, it's really sweet.
That's awesome. Well, lastly, before I let you go, perhaps you can touch on a few of the things that you are going to be teaching us from your presentation while you're joining us at the Gold Learning Online Symposium for Childbirth Education.
Yeah, I would say if I had to encapsulate what I am conveying in this presentation, it is that many, many people who work with birthing families have their heart in the right place. They are honoring of LGBTQ identified people and would welcome anyone into their class. And they're there in their heart. And there is a distance to be bridged between being in the right place in your heart and actually taking the steps to not only reduce the amount of marginalization that people are experiencing, but to really creating a safe and affirming space for LGBTQ families in a childbirth ed class. That those two things are not, just because your heart's in the right place doesn't mean that you've put in all those pieces that are going to make people really feel held. So that's what I'm going to spell out in this presentation.
Well, to me, that's very exciting because I too would not know if I was even developed enough to do that myself. So having you teach that for me sounds like the best idea. Well-intentioned is what I am, but I don't know if I have it all together. So I certainly appreciate you, Kristin, for being here. And I know for many of our listeners too, it will be great to have our eyes open so that we really can feel better developed in this area for sure. So thank you so much for sitting down for just this short time with us today. It's been great having you here.
You're very welcome. Thanks so much for having me.
And for all of our listening viewers here today, Kristin Colley will be here with us at our Gold Learning Online Symposium for Childbirth Education on September 12th. We're looking forward to having you all, and bye-bye for now.